Hi, welcome to Building SaaS with Python and Django. My name is Matt Lehman, and on this stream we work on a Django app that I'm building. We're going to jump right to it. We fixed some features up last time, and we're just going to return back to the list and see what we've got. So I was thinking about what to work on. I have a number of items that I got listed here, and I thought this would be a good one. I got some feedback from a person that they were saying, "Hey, you've got this new site that you launched, and it doesn't look good on mobile." And they were right. It did not look good on mobile. So what we're gonna do is make sure that things look appropriate on mobile. That would be a good first activity for the evening, and then we'll focus on some other stuff. So let's get started. If you've not joined before, this is a project that is a local journaling. Oh, it's a journaling app. It's not local. That stores journal entries in a database on the web, and it works via email. So we send emails out, and a person replies to fill in their journal. So there's actually not a lot for us to do on the UI front here, but we still want things to look nice and want people to be able to sign up and manage their account. So there are things that we have to do on the user experience, and we've kept things pretty simple on purpose, but we have some work to do to make it look good for all kinds of contexts. So here we are. We're at the user interface on the local host here, and I think one of the things that was missing, if I recall correctly from the screenshot that I saw, well, maybe I'm not correct. The person was sharing something, and it looked like tiny, but this seems okay. I mean, it's not great. You can see there's work to be done, but it doesn't look tiny like I saw. So maybe they had a weird browser thing going on. But there's something I want to check for sure to make sure when you target for mobile, there's something you need in your HTML tag that will essentially state that you should modify your scale appropriately. And it's a meta attribute, and we don't have it. So maybe what's happening, and probably the reason why I didn't notice this initially is because Firefox is not respecting that in this kind of mobile simulation mode. And if I were to actually look at Journey Inbox on maybe a real device, actually I'll do that right now, see if I can see what it looks like. So I'm going to bring up Chrome here on my phone and go to Journey Inbox.com, which is the URL for this site, and see how it looks. Yeah, okay. I don't know. I'm not even sure this can be seen. You get the sense of it. There's it's just teeny tiny. And that's a far cry from what we see here, right? And that has to do with a scaling setting. So let's actually use my homeschool project as a reference point. This is another project that I've worked on the stream. And we can go to the base, the template, and check out the base. And we should be able to find the thing that we're missing. And it's this line right here about this meta attribute, and probably actually the character set we can pull that into. Let's take these two lines and then drop them into our base template, which only has the head section. So these meta attributes will inform the browser that for a viewport, when you have a certain device width, I honestly don't remember. There's a little bit of a magic syntax to me. I'm sure you could go read all the details here. But what I do know is that for my site, this should fix that scaling problem. I wonder if I can refresh here. I really wish Firefox would respect whatever setting it was that made this hard to see, because you really can't tell. And do I have Chrome on this machine? I don't even know. Okay, we have Chrome. Well, let's try Chrome on its mobile perspective and see if it shows up as we would expect. All right, Chrome. I don't use Chrome on this device, and I definitely don't want alerts. You need to get the heck out of here. I think it just get out. No, none. I've already got it turned off. Get out of here. I do not like alerts of any kind. All right, let's take this URL, and we're gonna first start off with a full screen browser on Chrome, and come over here, and we get the page as we would expect. Now, if Chrome is maybe doing a little bit better with the mobile stuff, we will see what this looks like. But I honestly don't remember where they've moved it to, or it's been a while since I've done. Is it this one? Maybe it's this one. All right, so Chrome is not doing any better here, and you got some sizes it can fake, but or you know what? Maybe it is doing better because I saved it. So let's take that out for a second, see if it is doing better. Yeah, something's definitely different here. And it's like showing this whole size. And on this device, on the simulator, it's still not quite the same effect that I saw on my phone. But you can see it's like this full page here. And this is kind of weird. So if we go and we return the meta attribute back, then it goes down and we just get this short condensed thing. Okay, so that's a good starting point. I don't actually want to work in Chrome. I'm not a big fan. Well, I mean, it's fine. I work in Chrome at work, but I prefer Firefox as my developer, as my editor, my browser of choice, not my editor. So I think what we want to do now is tweak some things along the way. And we have some other aspects that are here, like we've got the settings buttons over here. Maybe that's fine. Maybe the really only thing we need to tweak is perhaps this is okay. It's still, and I think I did do some styling there. I'm not trying to make this like perfect, but I'm trying to make it good enough. And one of the things that we can definitely see is that there's no margin on these paragraphs here. So I think what we might want to do is maybe on the main attribute on the small size, we should set some small amount of padding at that boundary, because that main goes all the way around the main content. So that's probably the best place to put that, and then leave the rest of the Chrome. In this context, Chrome can mean stuff going around the user interface. Pietro the Best, which part? The site is already live. You can go to it today. I don't know. I'm trying to think the best way to answer your question. So it's live. So it is a site that we are building, but continuing to build and make better over time. So it's a live service. And if you want to see the whole project, you can go all the way back. There's a playlist for this project called Journey Inbox on my account that shows you like from day one. I do every line of code on stream, so you can catch all that. And then so that means that the second part of your question, the answer is, well, technically it's yes, because I think what I do is I deploy to Heroku, which is a platform as a service, and I believe that Heroku under the covers uses AWS for their hosting. I'm not 100% positive on that. That's really more of an implementation detail for Heroku's part, but I think that's how they do it. But from my point of view, I don't really deal with a lot of deployment stuff. I really have my app packaged up, and I hit git push to a certain Heroku remote on my git branch or my git clone, and it triggers a deployment. So that's one of the advantages of using Heroku as a platform as a service. It takes care of a lot of those details for you, so you can spend more of your time thinking about the actual product. Okay. So let's work on making this little box better. Let's close that because it's going to confuse me later when I'm refreshing and it's not working. And I think what I want to do is just add a little tiny bit of padding around this so it doesn't feel like it's going right to the edges. And maybe that'll be enough. So we're going to come down to this section that has main. So I already do have GUnicorn configured. So if you can look at my proc file here, which I've got a little previewer, and you can see it's running GUnicorn with Project WSGI, and it sets of workers and the log file. So that's pretty much it. It's not a crazy complex GUnicorn setup. I don't have a lot of hard requirements for the site right now, and a lot of the scaling would be handled by Heroku. If I wanted more workers, Heroku handles the load balancing, and I could ask for more workers. So I'm good with pretty much one web worker right now, and it handles the traffic that I need to handle. Okay, so coming down here to main, we've got our padding on the top. So I think what I want to do, in the way we're using Tailwind, and the way Tailwind is designed is to be mobile first. So you set your style with no attributes, and then that will apply to anything. And then, am I getting that right? Sorry, hold on. My brain is now thinking different stuff for. Wait a minute. I'm sure I've done some of this somewhere. Yeah. Okay, so the way this works by default is you can see that here's an example of the footer. And so we're doing a flex box, and it's saying on the mobile size, which is the default, we want this to be a flex column, which is what we saw over here. We've got this, and it turns this stuff into a column. And then at a certain breakpoint, starting at a certain breakpoint, which is the small breakpoint here, which has a specific definition in Tailwind, everything after that is into a row. So if I was to pull this out, eventually that will jump at the breakpoint and switch to a row orientation. You saw it jump there. So I don't know what that width is. I guess it's about, well, what is this? It looks like right at 720 must have been the breakpoint. This is 728 when I went a little bit past it. So there's a breakpoint there that everything after that stays in that row format. So that's how you think about Tailwind. If you want to design a site that is both mobile and browser friendly, then you consider both these attributes and you code them both and you treat them as separate and like use these different breakpoints like the SM colon, small colon, as the kind of name spacing point of this. So let's put this back to, what was it at? I don't know. That's good enough. It's mostly in the shape of a mobile device. I guess we could pick a specific mobile device. There's a bunch of iPhones. I don't know. Who cares? I'll pick a Galaxy Note. All right. Pretty big, but that'll work. And let's pull that down. All right. So now we're ready to add our styling to the main. So we'll come back up to here where I started touching it. Nope. Sorry. I'm jumping around. Sorry, y'all. So what I want to say is maybe what I want to do probably at that small size is have, I want to constrain X. That's really the dimension that I care about. So I want to have like PX. Let's just try a 2. I don't need a lot of space, but I need some. That feels maybe a little too claustrophobic. So let's look at 4 and see what that looks like. Okay, just a reasonable amount of spacing. I don't have a complicated user interface here. But what I don't want to have happen, like let's go back to the full size. You can't tell right now. Well, maybe you can a little bit. So you can see this has a container boundary, which is a certain amount of width. And this content box where all this content is also in a container. And I'll show that so that it makes more sense. So we're on the container on the main. And you can see what's here highlighted in the purple on the X sides, the left and right. And I don't want to have that purple that which is padding. I don't want that to be present on the small sides. So we can fix that by saying at small and above, so SM colon, we do PX0 to kind of return it back to no padding. And that brings it back out to the full size of the container. So essentially at this point, we're really saying we're leaning on the margin here of the container rather than any additional padding. And I do that to keep this simple. Like I don't like mixing a lot of padding and margin if I can avoid it. So this is just a simple way to handle that. And honestly, I think that may be enough for our optimize flow here. We can come back and turn this back on. So now everything is fitting inside of that main box. So on the smaller sizes, we will get something that fits in at an appropriate size. And then we'll get, the Galaxy Note is just gigantic. Is there anything smaller? There probably is, but well, let's see. I have a Pixel. Let's find one. Find a Pixel. My Pixel's it's a 4A technically, which isn't even on this list. Let's try a Pixel 5 because that's a comparable device. And let's get rid of a bunch of these galaxies. Who cares? Don't need all these. People must test a lot of different devices. Okay. Close that list and switch to the pixel. Slightly narrower. That's more of what I see. Still a little big, but I think the point is it looks appropriate. The other thing we could do maybe is, what could we do? Do I want to like also provide that same amount of padding on the header? Let's take a look and see what that looks like. So we've got our full header up here, or actually it's more likely on this class. And if we did the same px4 sm px0, what does that look like? It may not look good. Because the challenge is there's already some like padding on the button itself. So what I don't like about this, and maybe we'll just play with it until it looks right, is my eye sees this difference. And maybe it's kind of some aspect of a perfectionist to me, where I want that to line up. Let's try, we may not give it perfectly, but we can try and tweak it until it looks closer. That's pretty close. So now we've got some indentation. It's a nice, easy target. Both of these are easy targets to click. Okay, that's feeling pretty good. So let's say that that's enough mobile stuff here. Turn this off. Yeah. All right. On the full browser size, I think no matter what, we're going to have some indentation, which is kind of unavoidable unless I use negative margin, which I don't want to do. So that's just how that's going to be. Okay. So let's call this bit done. So a few quick changes to the base template that should get us far enough for mobile. And we'll say make mobile friendly. And that fixes, what number was that? 106. And we'll push that up. All right. So this is now closed. What should we focus on next? Sky's the limit. Not really, but there's a lot of options. Let's take a quick break to go through some of the more standard stuff we have to do. Again, if you've never seen this before, I show every line of code or every code change on screen, on stream, which includes the stuff that is less glamorous, like Dependabot updates. So we got to merge these periodically, and I don't do it right away because it's not the most exciting work, but it's part of maintaining an app. So I want to be as realistic as possible with you about how this actually goes. So I end up checking the release notes and checking out how things are going. So this is the release notes for a version that's not even out yet, but this is a small point release, and the test's already passed, so I'm confident of that, pretty confident of that. So let's just merge this small little change. This is for the database driver for Postgres. Okay, let's do graph is just an extra tool that we have. What changed? Remove some junk and fix a seg fault. Fine. I'm gonna knock these out quickly at this rate. This is a testing tool change for parallelization. And looks like they put in a feature and then yanked it because something was wrong with it. All right, whatever. Sometimes you get dependency updates like that just are pretty much noise. But if you want to stay on top of things, you just merge them and move on. All right, let's see. We've got lookup name. Okay. subquery stuff. Retirement of the module. I think this is unfortunate. I think this project we depended on switched. So using hash IDs, but hash IDs itself as a project changed to be called squids. I think. Let's see. Squids, but they're like hard to find. Squids. Yeah. So they're not really, and the problem is that they weren't truly hashes. These are actually reversible that are just short characters that you can use as making nicer looking URLs and stuff. And because of that, they thought that the hash ID was, the people who are behind this thought that that was deceptive, that it's not like secure. And they're very upfront about that, but people don't read. So it's not surprising that they went for a name change to make it a little friendlier. But there was also, it was more than just a name change. It's not just a pure rebrand. They changed some part of how the calculations or the computation that makes these IDs works. So the package that I was previously using here, hash ID field, is probably saying like, we're not going to modify this anymore, but it still does its job. So it's kind of one of these projects that maybe I would change it in the future, but really I don't want to, because actually these hash IDs are now a pretty integral part of how I identify the right person when a reply comes into the webhook that handles the journal responses. The hash IDs are how that person is clearly pulled out quickly and parsed. So that makes this a pretty important piece to get right. And I could move from one thing to another, but if that changes the hash ID, then I'd have to have a time period where I do a migration. I just don't want to deal with that. And it's working fine. Let's just take it. And then Django has a point release here. What do they have? They corrected some stuff. They fixed a test. Some kind of update for query set. All right, little minor point release. Sure. So that clears our stack of pull requests on this project. Okay. Last week, I was working on making it so you could actually close your account. So I had a process where you can do a sign up, and if you didn't let your trial expire and you actually activated your account, you couldn't do anything to actually go manage your subscription and end it. And I now have corrected that so you can do that. But there are other aspects of that process that are not there. So what I don't want to do is, this is a journaling service. Your data should always be your data. Because this is like sensitive information. Like if you were to trust my service with your personal journal entries, like I want to treat that with respect, and I want to treat it with knowing that like you may leave someday. So something important to happen is we need to make it possible for someone to export their content if they desire. So that might be something that we could work on very soon. I don't know that I want to do that right away though. So maybe this will be then something else that we come to shortly that helps with the closeout phase of a life cycle. But I think I want to fix this next. Yeah. So this showed up in Sentry as a bug that was happening. And you can see, I don't know that we can, what can we replicate this on? Maybe it'll show up just on the homepage here. I don't know. Or the console. Yeah. Oops. All right, let's pull all that stuff down. Do a quick pip install to get it going. Phooey. C flags. I have a C flags version. There's some graph is annoying stuff. It has to compile some things. So it needs to find certain C libraries. So that's why I had to do that again. But I have it in my history so that we can quickly access it. All right, anyway, let's start this back up. And we want to, with the console running this time, we want to refresh this and we should see what happened. So there's a couple things missing. We're missing a favicon. We should fix that. But more importantly, there is an error here that is firing. And I believe it's showing up with Sentry. Let me log into Sentry, which means I got to put it on secrets mode for a minute, unless I'm already still logged in. But nope, I'm not. So I am signing into Sentry right now. And I'm going to go to my project. And I'm not on School Desk. I want to be on Journey Inbox. Oh, maybe. All right. I thought I had. All right. Let me bring this back. I thought it was a Sentry error, or maybe I just noticed it somewhere while I was messing around with something else. No matter. It's still something I want to fix. So the challenge here is that this version of this account is activated, and we can actually. So let's bring up a. Control Shift P. Which one is it? Private window. Shift Command P. Okay, let's do an Alt. And then we want to go to localhost go to our admin page and log in as my local admin account. And we want to jump to the accounts section. And so we're logged in as Matt, and that is currently set to active, which is the scenario where this appears. So what's happening is we have some code, some JavaScript code that is there, and that JavaScript code is trying to fire and actually do some stuff automatically anytime this page loads, but the thing that it's trying to access by ID is not rendered for this particular account state. If we were in the trial state, it would totally work because that trial state is when this particular button that's missing currently is there. So let's go into our index page where this was appearing. And so this should be template index core index page. And then we should be able to see it here. So and let's check out the specific line. So we've got line 87, I guess. And the nice part about what I'm doing with the JavaScript on this project is that it's going to correspond with the HTML output. Like we just put it right here. So here's 87. All right, so we've got this. It's looking for, this is what it's failing on. So it's looking for this activate button. And if we search for this, we can see there's only one match on the actual HTML. But if we've come over here, we've got this activate button. And it's present when you're in the trialing state or you're in the trial expired state. So those are the two conditions in which that's true. So what we want to do is we only really want to show this Stripe information when it's in one of those two states, right? We don't need any of this stuff. We don't need to load Stripe. We don't need to do, like, this is only a functionality that's required for the activation process. So very simply, we can take the same statusing bit here, replicate it down here, do an appropriate end if, like that, and let's outdent this. Take all this content and put it in here. And let's indent it just so we have that clarity. Okay, so now if we come back to, or if we could even refresh this, it should just all disappear. Totally gone. But we don't see that error there. If we refresh here, we get no error anymore. That gets resolved. If we go back and flip this particular account that I've been using, which is Matt, back to the trialing state and say save and continue, and then we'll come back over to this side, refresh. Now we've got the button is back, but also notice it loaded all this Stripe stuff. And it's giving us warnings about we can't use HTTPS or we're not using HTTPS, so this is not going to work on production mode, and that's fine. So there's evidence that the Stripe things that we had conditionally rendered will match up here. And I'm okay with, like, we've got a status here and here. There's a purist viewpoint that could say, like, these things should be factored out into a single Boolean, and so that we're not replicating this logic in multiple places. But from my perspective, this is only 9 lines apart from each other. So I'm not too worried about messing this up such that this line on 29 and this line on 21 will get out of sync with each other. Now maybe that'll change in the future, and we'll keep our eyes peeled with that, but it's just not worth me spending a bunch of time with that. Okay, so I think that's enough to fix that issue, but I don't want to have errors running around, especially if, like, I'm doing a developer stream and then somebody comes and checks out the product and they discover that, hey, there's like obvious errors here. What kind of clown is this? So that should be enough. Adding that guard should fix that issue. And let's make sure everything runs. The test should have nothing to do with this front end stuff, so there should be no shocks there, but that's all good. All right. We'll say fixed JavaScript get element by ID issue on the activate button. And that fixes number, what number was that? 141. Okay. All right, let me look through this list a little bit and see if there's anything I want to focus on. Some of these were just kind of ideas that came up during stream that they'd be nice to add, but they're not critical. What is this one? Oh, okay. I had a scenario where, yeah, let's do this. This one would be pretty easy. I had a scenario where, I think I mentioned it last week, where somebody signed up and they clicked the activate button, they put in their credit card, they did all that, which was surprising to me. And then they didn't understand if the app was working or not. And I had to prove to them that, looks like you activated your account and the service was sending you emails. So especially, like, I wanted them to be certain that I wasn't trying to, like, rip them off in any way. But along that process of doing that investigation for them, I wanted a faster way to confirm that. So I had to go into SendGrid and, like, do the login and find their specific thing and search for their email address. And yeah, I could confirm it all. But what I would much rather be able to do is quickly look at my own admin and see, hey, do I have a SendGrid ID that corresponds to the email? Because every time I send an email, I'm creating a prompt record in the system, and that prompt record is recording a SendGrid ID. Well, I can actually even show that if we bring up the entries models. So a prompt is the thing that is what I'm calling out when I send an outbound email that will show up in a user's email inbox. It's their prompt to remember to write a journal entry. And it tracks some information about it for when it was sent or the date it was sent for and the user. And here it has this message ID field. This message ID field is the thing that gets recorded that is coming from SendGrid. And it gets pushed into SendGrid via this anymail status by this message ID attribute. And you can go dig in. We can go dig into how that works in the SendGrid sending component, but it's not really that important. What's important to know is that message ID is a thing that's going to give me proof that I have been sending a prompt for that user or not. So what I'd like to be able to do is have an admin page that is filterable by users and sees and shows what prompts have been sent for that user. So we can do that pretty simply by going to our entries admin, and we want to now bring in our prompt like that. And we'll take, actually, let's just steal this. So instead of entry, we'll replace it with prompt, like that. And we care, it's a lot of the same attributes will be present in both. So we can have the user and when, and this is the evidence here. Yeah, and that's probably enough. So let's fire up the app. Let's see what it looks like. Okay, we'll go over here and switch back to the admin. I should be able to refresh this page and see a new thing in this entries section. Yep, it promptly appeared. Haha. So here's our prompts. We don't have any prompts because we're doing a local site, but I can add one just to see what it looked like. So we'll say today, we'll say do the selector here and pick Matt. That's ID number 1. And we'll say fake SendGrid ID, and we'll save it. So this will give us a tool in the future where if there's a bunch of users, I can go to a particular date. I can say, oh, this was for John Smith. And then I can check on their entry, and I'll be able to get the ID. I still might have to go to SendGrid, and there are probably ways that we could, I bet there are ways to look up a specific email or information about an email via a certain URL form that you could make like a little button here that would like send you right over there. But that's way more than I need. I just wanted an ability to quickly view prompts that are in the database. So I think that's that whole issue. I'm not trying to do rocket science things right now. I'm trying to clean up some of these light issues and just sort of walk you through. This is frankly part of what app maintenance looks like, is like how do you write things, and what's the power of Django here? The Django is giving me a tool that says, hey, I went through this admin process. It was slow for me, and I wasted some of my Saturday or whatever it was when I was responding to this person. And it'd be nice if I could just quickly go to the admin, go right to their information, and prove to them, yep, we definitely sent it, and get some evidence of that. So add a prompt admin page. And that fixes another one of these, which was 79. Cool. That's 3 issues. That's pretty quick. They've all been nice and light so far today. Sometimes we do things on the stream that take like multiple streams to get through. So working through a set of small things is pretty cool. Oh, this would be a good one. This will also give me confidence that people won't. All right, so let's talk about constraints. These are database constraints, is what I'm referring to here. And the way the model is set up right now is there is some code that will check if you were to, well, okay, backing up. The entry is where your actual journal content is recorded. So you have an entry for a user for a particular day. That's the scheme. There's no more granularity than that. It's on a daily cadence is what the when attribute is. It's a date field. So there is code right now in the webhook that receives email, and it does some parsing and figures out what date is the journal entry is for, and we'll do a create or update, essentially an upsert, if you know database terminology, that will make sure there's only one entry. But it'd be nice to have at the database level some proof that we never do this by mistake. For example, I want to make it possible to do an import page, and I will probably do my best to make that checking work so that there's never an issue. But I'm going to create problems for myself in the future if I don't have confidence that there's only a single entry for a particular user for a particular day. So by adding a database constraint, you can say at the database level of we will not accept 2 of something in a certain condition. So by using, we can add a constraint onto the model, which will it will constrain that particular table. So let's go to the Django project. And it's been a while since I've actually done constraint stuff. And I remember it has changed. There used to be like frankly, in my opinion, a simpler way to do it, but there's a more exact way to do it, which is probably better, but so I might be confusing simple and familiar. So if we search for constraint, let's see what pops up here. All right, we got the constraint reference here. So this probably goes on the model meta still, I would assume. Create a check constraint. All right, is that the kind of constraint we want? No. We want a unique constraint. So let's look at, so constraints are limiting factors on a database. That's no matter what type we're talking about. There is a model, there's a meta class that you can add to models, and that's where you can put constraints. So let's just click to it. So this is an example of what this looks like. So it's a class meta that will have a constraint. So actually, why don't we do that right now? We know we're going to add a constraint. So let's go to the entry model, just down here. We've already got a class meta defined, and that was because we added the verbose name plural. So we know that we're going to add a constraint, which is constraints plural, right? Because there could be multiple of them, and it's going to be a list. And for now, we'll just put it as like an empty list right here. That's good enough to start. Okay. So this is showing a check constraint, which is doing a certain conditions. This is a bit more dynamic. We don't need that. What we're after is a certain set of unique constraint, which should be this one. So a unique constraint is making sure that things are unique about a particular database. So if you wanted to have a constraint on just a date field for a particular item, then that's cool. But we actually it's not good enough to have just a date field, because if you have an account and I have an account and we both put an entry in for May 22nd, which is what my time is locally, some of you might be on May 23rd already, we don't want to like make it so that only one of us can have May 22nd. So it's really the combination of the user and the date. That's what the constraint is. So that is what we need here. So we really want this format right here, where we'll list the 2 fields that we want, which will be user and when, and we'll give it, I think we have to give it a name, is how this works. Just reading through this, but it's been a while since I've looked at some of this documentation. All right, so this probably has to do with the deferrable aspect of like when you want to create the constraint. It might have impacts on the database, but our database is small enough that I'm not worried about that. I'll just go ahead and do it. All right, let's just create it. So where are these importable from? Sometimes it's hard to find that. They're not listed in the example, but if you ever want to know, you can hover over. Well, is that true? Thought you could hover over the permalink and get the import path. Maybe it's in models constraints. Is that how they put it? I thought it was like dotted. Sorry, it's been a while since I looked at the docs. Django DB models constraints. Okay. So let's go import it and get it created. So Django, so from Django DB models constraints, import unique constraint. And then now we're going to come down to our list. I don't know that there will ever be more than one constraint on this table, but let's not limit our thinking now to what it could be in the future. Let's go ahead and create it on a unique row, and we'll put a comma at the end so that the formatting will leave it this way. We have to give it a name, right? That was one aspect of this. You must always specify a unique name for the constraint. I don't know why it doesn't create one itself. I feel like it could, but I don't know. There's probably a good reason for that. So our name will be, let's see, user per day. Sure. Okay, so that's that aspect. And then on our unique constraint, coming down here, we want our fields, a list of fields that specify a unique set of columns you want to constrain, the constraint to enforce. So we want fields is equal to the two things that we want to constrain, which were, in this case, user and when, which is the date field. All right, so let's close this. That's all the fields that we need to constrain. And then throw on a trailing comma so that rough does not reformat it and try and turn it into a one-liner. Although with the length that it is, it might not have done that anyway. So now we have a unique constraint. Let's do, I have two kinds of tests that we can run. So one sort of test, look at our makefile. We've got one test that will run just with coverage. And it's this one. Well, maybe I didn't. All right, hold on. I'm going to go look at the homeschool app. Maybe I'm thinking of the wrong app. Huh. Okay. I must have put this only in CI. So let's, whoops. We look at the GitHub file here, we'll see something different. Or we should. When we run the tests down here, no. Okay, yeah, there is. It is here. I'm sorry, I wasn't seeing it. So the difference is important here. So we have this this flag right here, this -- migrations. So my default behavior, the way I've configured the test runner to run, is to run without migrations, and that's good for local development, in my opinion, because it allows for a speedy workflow. Because every time you run your tests, it isn't trying to produce the dependency graph from the migration system and create a pristine database state from the migrations. So it leads to a faster cycle where I can run all this stuff, and it runs it in parallel, and it's pretty quick. Oh, good. We have something to check on here. So I wanted to do two checks. One is this one that we just saw fail, that is like this. And the other is the one that includes the migrations. So in our testing, I still want to make sure that migrations are going to work. So I have a version of this that runs in CI typically, which is this make coverage target that will guarantee that it's going to run with migrations. And what should happen on this one is going to say like, hey, you're missing a migration. We detected that there's a change and there's no migration present. And you can see this one's going slower already. Like it took way longer, or it managed to run it with migrations. I don't know why that worked and the other one didn't. That's a funny state of the world. No matter. I still am a little shocked, but we should be able to do make migrations, and it will make, so we need a migration to actually create the constraint in the database, because this constraint that we've added is not a Django thing. It's like a little bit of code that runs some modifications, uses the data definition language of the database to like actually tweak what the schema is, and adds a constraint into the schema for the database. So that's why we need a migration out of here. So that make coverage thing should still work if I run it again. Now that it's got this new migration file to work with. I'm surprised it was happy with that. Like I thought there was some kind of check that would say, hey, you're missing a migration. Oh, no. Amusingly, no, it doesn't work. All right, let's figure out what's going on. Some test is probably trying to do something. Get random 4. All right. Test get. And maybe I have a bug in my code. That's always possible. All right, let's close out this extra stuff because it's a bunch of stuff we don't want to see. So we've got the entry factory. And okay, it could be the entry factory is not picking a, aha. The entry factory is picking today as everyone, which makes sense. It'd be the easiest thing to do. And so when we create an entry for 2 entries in a row and give it the same user, and they both are picking today, then yeah, no kidding that it's gonna mess up. So we really need to set a different date for the second entry, which would be appropriate. So like we're expressing some state that, yeah, if this was a perfect entry factory, the entry would be random and there wouldn't be conflict. Even that would not be a great scenario because that could actually create a flaky test scenario because the randomness you could have an intersection and you'd be scratching your head of like what happened when I did that. So it'd be better to make this deterministic. So let's bring in from Django. Oh, where is it? Is it utils import time zone? Yeah. And then here we want today is equal to time zone. What? Time. No. That's not the right place. Time. Yeah, it's time zone. Okay. I don't know why. It's being dumb. Okay. Time zone. Local date, I think, is what we want, which will give us like a today, basically. Convert an aware date time to a local time. Yeah. I think this is it. Okay. So just doing this is not going to be good enough. So we could say when equal today, and we still have the same problem because they're both going to pick today, right? So that should still fail. So then we can do when equal today plus time delta, which we haven't imported yet, and then say days equal 1. So today and tomorrow. Now we get our test passing, and now these are semantically more correct between the 2 entries. It's representing a state that really could exist in the world. All right, so let's run our tests. Let's run both kinds, I guess. There's the make fcov, which is fast coverage, and then we'll run our make coverage set here, which is the slower version. You can see. So what's happening? This break right here that you're feeling with me is that it's actually figuring out the migration state and generating the migrations and applying it to the local test database. And that processing takes time, and it actually grows as the number of migrations you have grows. So we don't want to have that cycle because look at the difference in time. This version took 3 seconds, and this version took 15 seconds. So that time adds up if you are operating like that every day. All right, so we have a new migration. I doubt the migration is properly formatted. So let's go up into our migrations directory, look at this, and I'm saving it, and Rough will just auto clean that up to be in the right format. And I think that's everything that we need. So add constraint on entry user plus when. And that fixes number. What was that number? 125. And this will give me just some peace of mind that I want good data quality matters. Your life will be better if you have data that you can trust. And using some database constraints will help you there. Now, the trade-off is like if you have coded something wrong and you could get some errors that show up in Sentry and you could potentially have a bad experience for your users. And that stinks. Like you never want your app to fail necessarily, but it's probably better to let it fail and then apologize and say, hey, look, we fixed it, sorry. But you know, that's why we write good tests and try things out. Okie doke. Let's look at what else we got. So this is not important yet. I think it will be in the future. There's a lot of like personalization that needs to come on the app. Like it's very limited right now. More like a letter to people that want to try it, which is fine for anybody. And if you want to sign up, please do so. It's a journey inbox, and if you go here, you can see how many spaces are currently open, that's a lot. There's a lot of spots that are there. So you're welcome to give it a shot. It's free for 2 weeks. Do I say that anywhere? Yep. Okay, I do. Before you click the button, free for 14 days. And then if you don't want to use it, no big deal. Your account will auto expire. But that's how that works. But eventually that'll be a more personalized thing where I just try and connect. This is a project created by me. It's not like a corporate thing. There's not a whole team behind this. And I really want to be able to lean into that as like I guess the term might be like indie hacker. So that's the kind of the culture that I'm part of here. So we can do that in the future, that about page. Here's like more personalization stuff. Oh, right. That one's kind of boring. I don't want to do that. We don't really have a logo yet, so it doesn't really make sense to add a favicon. We could probably generate some kind of logo or do we have a color scheme. So could be JI. I don't know how that would look. Like a ChatGPT logo. Yeah. Well, you're right. Because it can do images now, right? Like that was the part of the big upgrade with 4.0. ChatGPT. Am I logged in? I doubt it. All right, hold on. Let me log in. So I'm logging in here. We're trying to. And yep, okay. Can you make a logo? I don't even know how to ask this question well. For a product called Journey Inbox. Is it Dolly? I thought with the 4.0 thing they would just do it right here. Maybe I'm not correct on that. It is an email. It is a online software service that handles journaling via handles a personal journal via email. I'm trying to provide a little bit of context. Okay, it's a bunch of text. Let's okay. I should probably read it. I just like let my eyes just glaze over. I said, can you make a logo? And here's some ideas for logo design. All right, let's ask it if those sound cool. Can you show me images? Oh, boo. I thought for sure that they had incorporated like logo stuff into this. Or sorry, image stuff into this. What else we got? Maybe it's a ChatGPT Plus thing, which I'm clearly not paying for. Can Chat GPT 4.0 generate images? All right, clearly I'm not the only person thinking. Also, ingest and generate audio files. Well, that's taking images. You can handle audio input and produce text, image, and audio output. All right. Well, Simon's great. He spends a lot of time looking at this AI stuff, and he is on the bleeding edge of this. So am I okay? I think, am I 4.0? ChatGPT 4.0, not 4.0. Are they already changing it? They might be changing the UI so fast. All right. All right. Well, I think I'm going to punt on this for now. I appreciate the suggestion, criticism, but seems like it's not in the cards today. Okay. What's on the second page? Hey, there it is, logo. We'll get to it eventually. So we could do this, but again, that's really boring. All right, authenticated homepage. That is something that I want to get to soon. Because right now the homepage is pretty boring. Like you log in, this is what the homepage looks like. Basically says like, I really am terrible about it. It just says, sorry, I don't have one. But here's the button. Okay, so not the greatest. Is that text fuzzy to y'all? I'm looking at my little Streamlabs on the side, and it looks like, I don't know what's going on. Could be just my preview. Because if you can't read my code, that's not great. All right, hold on. So let's not do this. Still don't think we're ready for that. Still, I feel like there are some more features that are needed first. All right, thanks, Curtis. It's good to have confirmation there. Oh, I already have. Okay, so I've got a duplicate because I've got export your entries and I've got archive page. Okay, let's get rid of the archive page. It's really an export feature. It's not like you're archiving your stuff and going away in some sense. I mean, I guess, okay, whatever. Getting rid of that one. Let's work on this export feature. Let's talk about what it should be, where it should go, and all that good stuff. So let's use this summary area as our way to like design the minimal stuff that we need to. So I want to have a page. Do we even need a page? Let me just write down my thought first. Make journeyinbox.com/export work. That's the objective. And when you go to that page, it should return a file. Well, actually, okay. Let's make this a. That's the objective. Let's put a checklist of things that it should have. Okay, so produce a JSON file of all entries, of all of a user's entries. So implied with this is user needs to be authenticated. Okay, so there's that. Maybe we don't need a lot here. Where could we put this? It feels like it could be a settings page thing. Link on the settings page. Because you can only get to the settings page if you're logged in, so that'd be the right place to put a home for content that for someone who is trying to access their stuff. And naturally, so that's the place where you can manage your subscription. So if it's like somebody wants to say, hey, you know what, I'm actually done with your service and I'm ready to go, then if I put those things hand in hand of like, you can cancel your thing and you can export, that feels pretty good. So we want the JSON file of stuff. I want it to be, let's see, let's like sketch it out. And so it's going to be a list, and it's going to have particular entries. And the two keys that I think are important is the body, and that'll be the content of the entry. And the other key that I want to be able to provide is when, which will be the date field. 20, 24, 05, 22, that kind of thing. And so we'd have multiple of those for every entry. I want it to be sorted. This sounds like have a sorted list. Sounds silly, but I think the service that I was previously using, they didn't have a sorted list, so it's like I was never fully confident if they had all my entries. It was kind of weird. So have a sorted list by when. That's the thing I want to sort on, not the ID. And I think those are the parameters. Let's work on that. I'm curious if y'all do streaming stuff with other developers. Do most of them have like background music? Because I watch some things on YouTube, but I think they're like recorded after the fact. And I think maybe with the people that I watch tend to be on Twitch. And the Twitch folks, like, they cut their music. Maybe it's not like shareable on YouTube. They're worried about getting copyright strikes or something like that. I don't really know what the scenario is. Wondering if people actually like enjoy having background music. I've never done it myself here on this channel, but maybe it's would be valuable to add. Where? Okay. So, where do we want to put this? This should go. Let's start with the URLs, and I'm still I'm continuing to keep stuff pretty flat at this top URLs file, and I'm willing to go here until this gets almost painful feeling, because I don't know, it's not a very complex app. I don't want to make it more complex than it needs to be. So I want to do this, saying export And really what we're talking about is exporting the entries. So that's good. And then we want to bring in the same thing here. So we'll say export entries. Thanks for the feedback, Curtis. Yeah, I worry that, like, I'm, at some level I'm trying to entertain. I recognize that that's part of why people like streaming, but I'm also, it is like you said, it's a thinking out loud sort of thing, and I don't want that to be I wouldn't want music to be distracting to people necessarily. All right, so we have a view that doesn't exist yet, and we can go entries, views, come over here. We're not going to have, this isn't going to be doing a post or anything. We will need a login required. This is really just a get operation. So I don't feel like it has to be nearly as stringent as the import. Like you're not modifying the database, you're just getting your stuff out. And so that feels pretty okay to me. So we want to do, let's just start by, I'm just going to hack it in, and then we can go back and backfill with tests and stuff. I'll get what I think is going to be right. So we've got a request. It's an HTTP request, not a response. Oh, come on. It will return an HTTP response. And actually, it will return, well, it'll return a JSON response, but that should be a subclass. Okay. And then we're going to say export all of a user's entries as a JSON file, describing what we're doing here. So we need to get all those entries, and we have the user, and we know we're going to have the user because we're going to steal this login required and have confidence that that will be a real user, an authenticated user. You can't get this far unless you're authenticated. So we want the entries. We want to go to entry.objects. Now, maybe I will switch this to be an entry manager method, but for the moment, I'm not going to do that. So we've got the user field, and we want to do request.user. Zephyr, let me read your question here. Email sending. Yeah, I'll answer briefly. If you want to see all the gory details, you can go check out the playlist. I have whole stream sessions dedicated just to that topic of how do we actually send email. I think there are multiple, in fact. The short version is I use a popular package called Django Anymail. Django Anymail plugs into Django's email interface system. So there's a send mail method that is, or like a function technically, that is available through Django, and that hooks up to an email backend. Why not? Let's take a 2-second or a 30-second detour. So there's an email backend, and you can see we're using a particular backend. Anymail comes with a variety of providers. So the choice is sort of up to you of who you'd want to use for your email services. I happen to use SendGrid for this product. And you set this as a string path. And so this email backend then gets set as the email backend setting. And Django has a specific interface for how email backends work. There are multiple email backends, like you can have a straight SMTP email backend. When we're doing local development, we have a console backend, so it just dumps all the email content right out to the console so we can see it. So it's configurable, I guess. So it makes that cool. So I send out all the email there. I can show you a quick example of what that looks like in the actual job that's sending the email. So I've got a cron job, effectively. This is a daily cron job, and it's going through the different accounts, and it does this aspect right here, this send message thing. And if you get to the bottom of this, ultimately you'll see it builds up an email message. And because it's doing this because it needs to send both text and regular email stuff, and I add some metadata, and then you hit message send. And this is this looks like a specific thing to AnyMail, but really if you look at the subclass, it's deriving from Django's email message class. So this send method is probably in Django. If we go to the definition of it, where is this? Yeah, if you look at the bottom, you can see we're in Django core mail message. So that's where that is. That's the 30-second version, but sounds like that was good enough for you. So glad that can be useful. All right, so we've got our entries here, and we've filtered them by user. That's going to be really important. We don't want to accidentally send, everybody's entries. That'll be a very critical unit test that we write to. I see it here, but I never want to lose that aspect because I don't want to accidentally share the whole world. That would be super embarrassing. And then we want, as I said, the other thing I wanted out of this is I wanted it to be ordered. So we want it to be ordered by when. And the default should be ascending order, which from a date field perspective should be starting at the oldest going to the newest, right? So I think we don't have to do anything specific by this except say order by and give it a when as the field to order by. Zephyr, that's a good question there. So I think there's a fairly I would really encourage reading the AnyMail documentation. It's a pretty clean process at the ultimately of you got an interface in Django, you've got a backend that represents the service provider that you want, and then there probably is some stuff around domain name setting and who's sending what that maybe gets a little messy. So you might be right there. But it's not too bad, has been my experience with it. Okay, so what do we have here? We've got some entries. But really this is like, if you think about it, this is way more data than we need. We don't actually need the entries. We need we just need like dictionaries that represent the entries, right? So we can do that with using something called the values list method. So let's look at that. I'm gonna make sure I remember this right. Values list, I think that's what it's called. All right, let's jump to that. So values list does this thing where you give it the list of fields you want. You can see I want the ID, I want the headline, and then it returns back a list, and the list is like a set of tuples, okay? That's not actually what we're interested in. Well, maybe it is. We might want to play with this. Or maybe I'm thinking of values. All right, it's been a while. Let's check on values and see if that's actually what I was thinking of. Yeah, okay, sorry. I think I want values, which gives you more of a dictionary kind of structure. Values list is good for another purpose. If you just want like a set of IDs, you can use values lists in combination with flat as the keyword argument. So go check that out. So it's a good way to like get a list of IDs and then use that as an in expression when you want to do some filtering against a set. So kind of like doing some union stuff. It's really good. But that's not quite what we want here. Instead, we want to do a values, which will give us a list of an abbreviated list. And the benefit of this is that it's not going to create a bunch of full entry objects, because really we're trying to get just the minimal stuff that we need out of this and then pass that to some kind of serialization. So we'll call values and we're going to pass in the two fields that we want. which out of the entry is going to be the body and the when field. So now we have this entries thing, which is now a values list. Value, is it a query set? I don't remember the type. And what we want to do is once we have this list of dictionary-like things, we want to actually turn that into a JSON response. So this is where I'm not sure if this will serialize properly, but I'm going to try it. We'll write a test. We'll see if it blows up in our face or not. So we want to return a JSON response, and we want the, is this data? What we give it? It's been a while, y'all, since I've done this, so this might come out not quite like we want, but this may be amazingly simple if we get it right. So I think this may be it, but we're going to find out. Let's go and create a test file. The fastest way to do this is, instead of clicking around, is to actually create a test file, and in it we'll create a couple of different entries, and we'll try and do an export for that user. So we're going to go to the entries test views, and we will do, let's steal this. Did I upgrade to NeoVim 0.10 yet? Well, I don't know. I don't remember. How do I find that? Is there a version? It looks like no. There you go. I go from homebrew. Like, curious, what does 0.10 offer? Do you know? So it's probably whenever I do my next homebrew update that I'll get whatever's there. So let's steal this. I don't know why I did. That's stupid. Could have just typed it. So we want to export the entries. We want to do, I want to do the happy path. We're going to call it test OK. And, oh, really? Okay. I don't know how often they release NeoVim stuff, because I have not been paying attention to that. So we want a standard client, and well, all right. I don't remember. Do they give us an authenticated client? What am I looking for? PyTest Django. So if you go to Django helpers, there's a fixtures section for this stuff, and here's a client. No, we get to force the login. Okay. All right. Are any of them? You can get an authenticated client with an admin user, but I don't think you can get one for a regular user. All right, that's fine. So we will do client, and we'll say the user is equal to the user factory. We'll create that. Yeah, force authenticate, I think that's is that the one we want? I think it's called force login in this case. Force authenticate is probably DRF, but it's the same concept. So client, force. What is up with my? This is where PyTest is cool, but it's not smart enough to figure out what this client thing is unless I annotate stuff. Doesn't understand dependency injection. So force login, I'm pretty sure that's what I have in other places. Let's look for this. Yep. We got our force login, and we want to do response is equal to client. This is a get call with a reverse. Okay, reverse is already there. And I think I called this export entries as the name of this thing. And I want to see that we want to get a 200 response. So assert that the response status code, man, it is really struggling with like helping me in any way. Not cool. All right, let's start there. Womp womp. In order to allow non-dict objects to be serialized, set the safe parameter to false. Heck no, that's not what we want to do. So we've got some type that is not serializable, it seems. I wonder if there's a way from, all right, what is the, let's print the type on the entries. There's no entries in here yet, so yes. It's a query set. All right. Fine. Yeah, going by memory. That's what I really lean on. Yes, my LS. I'm going by LSP, and this is Pyrite. Pyrite doesn't, and I don't want to do the type Django stub stuff. Not that I think it would help in this case with PyTest. So what do we need? We need an entry. Where's our entry factory stuff examples? We were just messing with one a little while ago. Yep, and in fact I want to use these same examples because we need to have 2 entries and they need to show up in order. So let's put those. In fact, let's steal this. There's a lot that we actually need from this file. Okay. We are not using those. Oh, I don't have time delta either. Date time, time delta. Okay. What's the problem? What are you complaining about? Entry factory not defined. Come on. And what's going to happen, the unfortunate part is, like, as soon as I put this in, rough is going to like auto clean. It's going to try and auto remove these variables, I think. Oh, good, it didn't. All right, so we have variables that we're not using yet. That's fine. We'll clean those up in a minute because we're going to assert against them in a moment. And we're still going to get a type error because we haven't corrected that. It's still a query set that it's going for. So maybe what we could try is go back to our views file, and here, let's go ahead and convert it to a list. So now we're no longer dealing with the query set. It's something serializable. That conversion's already happened, but it might complain about the actual like object there. Yeah, Clayton, that's the part that I'm wary of. The use like safe equal false. Maybe I'm needlessly wary of it. So all right, let's go read the documentation. I shouldn't live in fear. That's stupid. But let's read about what safe talks about, because I'm going based on some weird assumption about what safe is. Because my thinking is that maybe it just isn't like, it might serialize as something, some kind of representation of the bytes, which might be close, but may not be what we want. Safe parameter to pass characters which don't require encoding. Well, that's not, hold on. Safe, the safe Boolean parameter defaults to true. If it's set to false, any object can be passed for serialization. Otherwise, only dict instances are allowed. Yeah, so I think this is not going to do what we want. Or if it did, it's only going to be like coincidentally doing what we want. So, all right, let's just for the moment, just for curiosity's sake, see what happens if we say safe equal false. I don't feel like it's the right change, just to be clear, but oh, Zephyr, I just saw your comment there. Based Pyrite, relatively new fork of Pyrite. Oh, interesting. It's also turning off. It's type checking off. That part seems weird to me. It turns type checking off. Like, isn't that the whole point of Pyrite? Maybe I'm missing something. All right, what happens now? Hey, we got a pass, but Rafi, welcome. I'm skeptical of what we're getting. So let's assert that the response was it body? And it's probably decoded is equal to, I want this to blow up on purpose. Oh, you turn yours off. Oh, I see. So we know, all right, we know we got a list. Well, that should be a no duh thing. I told you all I was making it a list. JSON response has no attribute body. Content, it's one of these things. I don't know, I can remember. Okay. Ah, man, I feel yucky because that safe change works, but I don't feel good about it. That's like, all right, hold on. What type do we have out of here? So what's a type of one of these? So I'm interested in a particular entry. What's the type of it? It says it's a dict. Then why was it complaining before? No way. Something's not right. Or is it some key in there? That would be even weirder. This is why we need DRF sometimes. It's like the built-in JSON encoder is not very smart. Oh, there it is. Look, we have dates in here. So when you put it into safe equal false, it's doing some, like maybe it's calling repr on the date instance, maybe? So I bet we could get around this. Whoops. If we go through the entries and then convert all of those into strings. Like if we, okay, let's try this. Let's delete that. We'll call this the entries query set, because that's technically what it is. And then we'll create our entries. This is me just being like paranoid, I guess, about that safe attribute. And we will do I was thinking of, like, this is probably memory wasteful too. Do I care? Probably not. Body, E, body. So that would be like the body attribute. So I'm going to use E as entry. We'll see this in a second. And then the other thing would be when, and we'd call stir on E when, which would be a datetime field. And then we'd close that for E in entries query set. How's that? Now, how's it go? Boo. Boo. What? What failed this time? Why? It's a list. In order to allow, is it the fact that it's not, oh geez. It's the fact that it's not directly a dictionary. Okay, y'all. All right. No. JSON.org. I think the JSON encoder in Django is wrong here. I think they're out of line. Because look, this is the standard for the JSON data format. And they can take these forms, it says. Here's the object form. This is what makes sense as a dictionary. Okay, sure, you get a dictionary, you have all your stuff. But you can also take an array. That's totally valid. So I think that the encoder's not right. Shouldn't be doing this. But at least we can look at the code. All right, so now what do I have confidence of? Well, maybe we should look at the JSON encoder. I want to look at that briefly and see what's going to actually happen in that code path. I'm not truly paranoid about this aspect. I'm more curious at this stage of what's going on here. So I just went to go to definition of the encoder. So we're going to pass in a list. So we're going to have to do that safe equal false aspect. Oh, it's pretty short though. Okay, I don't feel too bad about it. So we're going to do a dumps on this. We've got an encoder. The encoder is the Django JSON encoder. But we know, like I did the conversion myself. Maybe I'm needlessly doing that though. Yeah. Maybe this thing knows how to do query sets. I don't know. Let's go another level. It definitely, all right, here we go. It handles dates better than we were doing. I was doing stir, which maybe stir on a date time is calling ISO format under the covers. I don't really know. We still might have to convert off of the query set, but this gives me confidence. Like looking at the fact that this is the encoder and we have strings and we have dates, and that's all we have to care about, and we have this branch that we have now looked directly at the code, I feel pretty comfortable with this change of like, let's not do this. This is stupid. Let's get rid of that. Let's go back to calling this entries. Let's convert it back to a list because we know it's not going to take query sets. Let's do this and return the safe equal false thing. And I'm going to apologize to Clayton because you were right. Maybe you knew all this. Maybe you'd internalized it, or maybe you're just more trusting than I am. And then we'll just add a comment that says safe equal false is okay here because we are passing a list. JSON response only wants dictionaries, but we know for certain that the JSON spec allows for lists. That's got to be a bug. Got to be. Okay, let's make sure our test pass. Well, okay, I shouldn't have expected it to pass. What can we do? So I could treat this as a what do I want to treat this as? Sorry, y'all, I'm thinking. Let's see. Let's do JSON. And we want to do JSON. We want to load it from a string, and we want the response content. Is there a JSON method, or is that only DRF? Does this work? I mean, that's still going to fail, but I just want to see if there's a JSON method. All right, there's a JSON method. Cool. And it's already done brought this as an actual list. Good. So what we want to assert on is that I will have confidence that this is working appropriately because the order is here, and actually we wanted to order by today. So I want to flip this. So I want the second entry to be the one that has today, and the first entry that's actually a day in the future. And this is the way we're going to check that our test is actually doing the order by in the ascending order that we expect. Because if you don't have the order by, it's going to default to ID. And if these are ID based, then this would be the first ID and this would be the second ID. And actually, now that we have this backwards, that looks so stupid. So I'm going to call this tomorrow and entry today. All right. So what we truly expect is we want to be able to assert that the JSON, I don't want to call it JSON. I want to call it data. That the data, that the first entry is equal to the, and let's look at we can have confidence of this by checking the body. And we can say that the body on, actually that needs to be a dictionary access, sorry. The body here is going to be equal to entry today dot body. That should pass. Awesome. And then we do one more, just a sanity shows that it has both of them. We do entry tomorrow. All right, neat. We're cooking. Let's go. So this is our happy path test. This shows us, hey Dev, thanks for subscribing. This shows us that for a logged in user, which we have forced here, you can see this whole story. It tells the full thing, that you can call export and you're going to get the data. So the other things that we want to test, let's actually go steal from a different test file. Let's take it from this one, is we want to make sure that an unauthenticated person does not get a call. These ones are working for unauthenticated. They do get the call. Do I have another views file? Counts. Yeah, okay. So it's actually this one, I think. Because we want this 302. That's not a good one. Here we go. Let's steal, whoops. Shift, not control, Matt. Shift. Take that. And this gives us the confidence that it's more of like just saying a data contract of, hey, this is expecting to only work for authenticated users. So we'll change this to export entries, and we should get a 302 response out of here. Okay, cool. I guess the other thing we could check, what else do we care about? We want, I remember. We want to test to make sure that this filter is always going to work, right? That's going to be super important. And then I think one more thing that we could add to this OK response is that the length of the keys, that we only want there to be two values, and one should be body and one should be when. Yeah, something like that. So let's do length of, there could be, if we had better serialization tools at our disposal, there would be better ways to do this, I promise. I would not be doing all this stuff, but what I'm deliberately doing, I guess I should comment on this. One strategy could be, okay, we're making an API, therefore we need DRF, Django REST Framework. And I love Django REST Framework, it's a great tool, but it's way overkill for having like maybe what it will amount to one API-like thing in this project. So what I'm willing to do is use the JSON response that comes from Django because it's available. It's not maybe the best tool. Like we had to do this exploration on safe, and I don't feel great about that. And we had to convince ourselves that that's okay. But it's sufficient. So maybe that's like kind of the lesson here is that learn how to like balance how much you're willing to do to take on a new dependency. So I'm kind of doing a little bit extra assertion here, like in a different context. Let's say, okay, compare it to Django REST framework. In that model, what I would probably have done is have a test that actually compares the shape of the data and like does a direct data object comparison. And that would have been cleaner and clearer than this test a little bit, but it would also be a huge dependency to add to the site, which I don't want to do. Okay, so we know that there are a couple of keys, and I guess I could check that the other key is when, but I've already seen it, so I don't really care. So this is good enough. And then we want one more test that says def test other user. So this is the case where we want a user does not get another user's entries. That's what we're after. So I'm going to start by taking this top part here, and what we want is to have the way that we can represent this is we don't even need, so we can get rid of the tomorrow thing. We don't even need the fact that it's going to be, we don't need to use this. We just need to create an entry. We need to know that there's an entry for this user. Now the thing that I'm going to do, I could do, this will be not obvious if I did it this way. So the easiest way to do this is I could do user factory. And right here, I could call this like that. I don't find that to be very clear because it doesn't really express the intent of like, okay, what was this force login? Why is it this user factory? Instead, I think what I want to do is give this a variable name. It's not a very useful variable name except in its descriptive purposes. So we could say another user, and we could do user factory here, and then change what's in here to be another user. Okay, so now we're trying to use the test to tell a story, and the story is another user is logged in. And so when we do this client here, then actually to tell an even better story, perhaps let's do it this way. Let's do another user, and let's do user, and I want another user, because the way we said this with the doc string, it says a user does not get another user's entries. So now now we like read this like it is. In fact, this today stuff is trash. We don't need that. We're like, I want to distill this down to like the essence of what this test is trying to sell. So another user has an entry. Technically, I could even get away with just calling an entry factory, and it will automatically create it for a random user. But I think that also is like, what? Why is this random entry referred to here? So at this point, we switch this to user. So we're completing our story where we've got another user's entry, and we are the user. That's who we're logging in here, and we want to get the JSON out of the response. I'm just going to assume that works because we already have a test okay to check to assert on the 200 condition. And then what we're really interested in this for our assertion is that there should be no entries. The length of data should be 0 because we don't have any entries for that user. And that should convince us that we didn't get somebody else's entry. All right. So those are the tests that I think give us the confidence that we're testing that somebody who shouldn't be accessing at all can't access it, and then in the context of what they're accessing, that they can't get access to somebody else's stuff. So it covers pretty much all of the details of this particular query set. If I was feeling in a better mood to like be specific about this, I might put all of this stuff into an object the object manager, the manager as a specific method. But I don't know, I actually kind of like it here maybe as like a, hey, look, here's everything that we're doing to export it. Like it's the whole specification of we're getting the user, we're ordering by when, we're getting out these values, that's it. And then you're converting into a list and dumping it out. pretty. All the details are there. Okay. Let's run our test really quickly. Make sure everything is still working. Should be. Cool. That's working. And now what? Now we need to actually hook it in somewhere. So let's go back to our issue. Take a look at this. Get rid of this guy. We have produced a JSON file. So the JSON response will automatically produce a JSON content type. I don't actually know what the name will be. That'll be interesting. User needs to be authenticated. Well, we've checked on that, and we have it sorted by when. So now we need to link it and see what comes back. I'm really kind of curious about what the default name of the file will be if the browser tries to name it at all. I don't really know, and I don't know if we can we influence that? Maybe. Because I want it I kind of want it to be like a file download of this is going to pop up that way. And what do we have to do to change that? But let's go expose it in the UI so we can test this out. Go to our settings dashboard, which is this this template right here. And this is where we created this for the first time. What kind of message can we put here? We could put well, first we're going to need some margin on the bottom. So we need to give some space for this thing, otherwise it's going to look funny. We need to do that on this paragraph tag as well for this different state. I guess we probably should check both. I don't know. I don't really want to. It's pretty obvious what that change is. And then that gives us a new paragraph here. And we want a hyperlink. And that will be a URL call to export entries. We'll end like that. And export, we'll just call it export your journal for now. Oh, and we need to style that. Shoot. Keep running into that. Oh, good. There's already some class stuff right here that we can take. Okay. Export. Let's see. Export all your. Nope. Come on, Matt. English. All your journal entries. Okay. How's that going to look? I don't remember if their test account even has them right now. So it might be an empty file. It might load a JSON page, which would be lame. We're going to go find out. Oh, that's an old admin page. Don't want to be that one. Let's go to the settings page. Export all your journal entries. Let's click it. Well, I mean, that works, sort of. There's a save button. Not really the experience I'm going for. How do we... Can we set the content type differently and it will save it, it'll prompt as a file? All right, let's see. I think that might be the mechanism. What HTTP content type to save as file? How do we do that? Is that, let's What is the HTTP content type for files? Maybe we set it as text plain. Oh. This might be it. Application octet stream. That will probably download as a file. I don't know. We're going to try it. So let's see. Content type. I think that's what you do. Okay. Oh, yuck. DMS. What the heck? NDFQ what? What? That was a weird one. I don't know what happened there. So let's see. Downloads, ND, whatever. ND. So it's right, but how do we set the name? That's definitely what we want. But we want a different name. All right. Let's see. Well, ChatGPT, talk to me. With a content type of application octet stream, how can I set the file name that the browser will use when downloading an HTTP request? Do that. Content disposition. Oh. Let's see. Okay. Can you show that for Django? You got Flask. Yada, yada, yada. Forget how to set headers sometimes. Oh, interesting. So after, okay, before, okay. Do we need to set the length? I'm not going to set the length. I'm going to let Django figure that part out. So we're going to do this. We're going to go to response equal this, and we'll say response content disposition. It uses that older style of capitalization. I don't know that that's strictly necessary. Okay. Take this for now. As that literally, and maybe we put the, I don't know. We'll start with journey inbox .json. I want it to be like to include the date itself, I think. Oh, we also need to return the response. Okie dokie. Let's go back to our test file, make sure the test still works. This is the test views. Whoops. Content type, header. What? All right, that didn't work. Can we, maybe the fact that we're adding the content disposition will be enough for us to get rid of the content type, the octet bit. See if we can drop this part. That gets the test to pass, but I don't know if it'll give us the right behavior on the other side. So, still got this running. All right, cool. We got journey inbox.json. And that should still look like downloads, journey inbox.json, hello world 3. All right. Let's make one more entry to ensure that the content looks like we expect. So we'll come over to this section, go to the entry section, create a new entry, call it another hello world. We'll do it for today, do it for user 1, which we know now is Matt. Okay, and then we'll come back over here. Come on. We will export our entries again. Now we get the 01 version. Kind of annoying. We'll fix that in a second. And cool. It's in order. I like it. Neat. So let's do this. We're nearly wrapped up. I think I'm getting to the point where I'm pretty happy with what we've done this evening. But it's time to put the bow on it, right? So I want to get the local date like this. And then I guess we're going to need the from Django utils import time zone. Okay. And then down here's where we can do turn this into an F string. And I think what I'm just going to do is let it do the representation on that just as it is. We got an F string. It does some formatting funniness. That's okay. And now if we click it again, we should get a nice date in there. All right, so you got a download from today's date. So that feels pretty good. Cool. I think I like it. Let's run our test suite. Make fcov. Awesome. And I think we're at a point where we can review it and see if everything looks good. So we've got our test views here. We spent a fair amount of time on this section. We've got the unauthenticated path. We've got that you can't access somebody else's stuff. And we've got the happy path that is getting the stuff out of there. I'm not going to assert on the content disposition stuff. I don't really feel like that's going to be valuable. We just saw it. Like, I don't need to test everything in the world. I'm not going to change that code. In the event that I do change that code, I'd probably check, do I need a test for this? Or I just test it again manually. So here's our actual view. We did quite a bit of work just to get this view done. It's not that many lines, but that's okay. It does everything we needed to. And then we hooked it in to the path. And then we have some a link on the settings page that says this. I'm wondering if we should maybe do like should be a finishing touch of like, why is an export option available? Maybe I'm wondering if I should put this here or somewhere else. I think this belongs in. I don't feel like I want the settings page to be clear. Of this is what you can do. So if the user has an active account, they would see manage your billing information, I think it says now. And then the second thing would be export your stuff. Those are your two actions. They're both show up as links. There's not really much to them. And then what I don't want to do is pollute this with like a bunch of very descriptive text necessarily. Instead, I think what I want to have is ultimately like a frequently asked questions page. So let's make sure that, all right, let's check that because I think that's going to be done. And then see if we have an FAQ page listed. I don't think we do. No. Let's make a new issue. FAQ. So item for FAQ. And we want to put in how do or can I get my journal entries out? Yes. We don't want to, or no. You own your data. That's probably not technically true from like a legal perspective. Well, there's probably some language you can put in there. Maybe it's not. I don't think that it's important for me to nail this right now. And then say like link to settings page to find export, something like that. All right, that's good enough. And then that'll give us a home for addressing like questions that people might have about privacy, or just a place to like really clearly communicate what the service does and doesn't do, what people can expect. Simple stuff like that hits the highlights and allows us to keep some of the other portions of the app very like stupidly simple. Okay, so since that's the case, we've pretty much hit all the highlights on here. So I'm going to commit this stuff. Oops. What did it do differently? Whatever. Is that going to fight with... Okay, I'm not going to figure that out later. So add export feature. And this fixes number... Nope, not that number. 148. And this gets us closer to like having a full, complete, like a life cycle that I can feel confident about, with everybody gets exactly what they need if they don't want to use the service anymore. I don't want to like keep anybody hostage. This is very important that this be possible to happen. So let's push that up. The other thing I want to do is go ahead and deploy it. Why not? So we'll also in this process discover if there's been any. This is my only seemingly way to find out if I'm up on the latest Python version, because there's a little message that says, hey, we found there's a new Python that you want to update to. Looks like no, not yet. That's good. So this will be pretty quick. And then that gets us to 29 issues. Let me think about what we want to do next for the future. I think where I want to go, again, sticking with the theme of completing like the whole flow. And then once we have the bones of the whole flow in place and all of the UI that is expected, then I think we can start moving into like polish and make it like a visually appealing site more than just the bare bones. We'll have the data in place, and then we can layer on stuff on top of that. So we have this item, and I'll go ahead and mark it as this is I think the next thing to do. When the user is logged in, we want to give some kind of show them their latest entry, and then also give them navigation to look at previous entries. So that feels like the right next step from my perspective. So let's mark this as the one that we want to, and this is a way I can signal that, hey, that's what we should be focusing on. So I can now filter down to that, and now we've got that point of view. And then what else would we want? So after that's done, what else would we really want to exist? I would want that FAQ page should be there. This is like fleshing out what pages are still missing in the app. The about page, the FAQ page, they both feel like missing things. So let's put those assignments on there. So that gives us 3 items. And then some of the features beyond that are more about like modifications to existing pages, for the most part. All right, so that feels like a good really wrapping point. And we've got a good launch here. I don't think I'm logged in, so I don't think I can really show this. But if you want to try out the service, you want to see the export feature live, you're welcome to do that. Go ahead and do that. Also, if you, I guess at this point, shameless plugs for things that you might want to keep up on. So if you are interested in learning more about Django, like you saw what I was doing and you're like, what is this guy up to? I have a book that you can go read online if you want. It's called Understand Django. It walks you through the framework and all the pieces of it and a lot of what I covered tonight. If you like it, you can buy it. There's a paper copy. There's a digital copy available if you want. I've also got Patreon, and shout out to Rupert, Andrew, Dragos, Ryan. Oh my goodness, who else is there? Patrick, Fred, Aaron. You guys are awesome. Thank you for supporting me. If you want to join that crew, you're welcome to. You can also subscribe on or go through the process. What are they called? Memberships or whatever on YouTube. I've got the same tiers over there. So whether you want to do on Patreon or YouTube, it's up to you. So there's lots of ways that you can support me financially if you want. My preference would be that you like love Journey Inbox and that it's awesome and it works for you. I think it's a great tool. I've used a tool like Journey Inbox for a long time, and I'm replacing the tool that I was using, and I've been literally using it for a decade. I think it's a great thing to have a personal journal. And from a value exchange perspective, I think it's great that if you want to pay me, but also I give you back a service, I think that would be super. So anyway, that'll do it for me for this evening. I think I'll be back next week. I don't think I have anything going on, so I should be back at it next week. We'll continue on the UI here, and hope to see you then. Take care.